Children all over the globe are meant to live happy and fulfilled and dream-worthy lives. As sad as it is though, none of that is true. The next generation of this planet is in vital danger of being one of the most mentally, physically unhealthy set of human beings on this planet. And there's one key reason for it. Child neglect. At the current moment in time, in 2020, every one in 100 adults have had a severe past where they have been neglected, and that is proven. That means that every 1 in 100 people have had a bad childhood, and chances are more likely to suffer from a mental health condition, and that rate seems to continuously be going up. And a lot of this is due to people having kids at much younger ages. You know, there's people in their 20s already having kids, even though they've barely been able to buy themselves a house yet. A lot of it's also due to a lack of education on how to develop children. A lot of parents go into having kids and they haven't got even an idea of how to feed the freaking thing, and then they rely on their own mum to do it for them, and so on and so on. However, the effects of being abused and neglected, emotionally abused, not developed in the correct way is insane. And you could literally destroy that child's life if you decide to go down that route. Sometimes neglect is not the parent's fault. They may suffer from mental health conditions, maybe they've been overwhelmed, or other family events have caused the neglect. But as sad as it is in society today, there are definitely people out there who know full well that they are abusing or emotionally abusing their child and continue to do it, leading to social services having to get involved and remove the child or provide the child extra support, costing the government money and removing vital resources from the NHS. It's crazy. So that means for every 100 people you meet, there is a chance that one of them was neglected. And even more shocking statistics is that over 70% of young people will know someone who has also been neglected. So ladies and gentlemen, today I want to address this issue. I want to raise awareness for how we can try and prevent these neglections and how we can try and make sure that these children are getting the correct support and dealt with in the correct way. So, let's jump into this. What's up guys, welcome back to the Focus Future channel. I hope you guys are all having an amazing day. I hope your day's gone well and we're all striving to achieve. Today I wanted to address the issue of child neglect, child abuse and emotional abuse, because it's a massive issue in society and I think it's something that as a mental health channel I need to address. So if you're interested in all of that, please stay tuned. If not, please use the top link in the description to check out another video to learn a bit more about me. But apart from that, let's jump into this and see how we can stop child neglect. Now before we start, I just want to clear up all the different types of neglect that can take place in mainly children. It could also take place in adults, but we're focusing on children here. So you've got physical neglect, you've got emotional neglect, you've got educational neglect, and you've got medical neglect. All three of them are very different. Physical neglect. A child might not be being fed, they may be being hit, they might not be being checked up by a doctor or a dentist regularly. All these different types of things are counted as physical neglect against the child. Emotional neglect. The child is not being given enough attention or love. The child is not being developed emotionally in the right way. For example, they're not being taught basic speech and language skills, or they're not being read, or they can't read, or all these different things. Educational neglect. They have their educational rights whipped away from them. They're not attending school, they're not being allowed to do homework, they're not being allowed to achieve in school, or they're being limited due to their race or other forms of natural processes. Medical neglect. They're not being given free healthcare. they're not being treated properly, or they're being allowed to become ill and not being given the correct medical treatment. And in all cases of neglect, no matter if it's emotional, physical, medical, or educational, the effects are pretty darn severe. And the chances are it will affect that child's life for years and years and years to come. It uses up NHS resources. It means that schools have to spend millions and millions making sure that these children are supported. It puts pressure on the government, as if children are not being developed in the right way, the next generation are not going to do such a good job, meaning the economy's going to go like this. But most importantly, their mental health deteriorates rapidly. A child who has been neglected is at least half more likely to develop a mental health disorder in the future. They are half more likely to not be able to maintain an emotional relationship with someone, and the chances are these guys are going to struggle with marriage. So how do we make sure that children who are going through this are being one, making sure that this is prevented, so in an ideal world, children are not being neglected at all. But for the current kind of solution, how do we make sure that these situations are being reported, dealt with, and given the required support? Well, it's a responsibility of all of us. Under the UK law, there is a Child Protection Act, and it imposes that every person, mainly in the working world, but everyone in society to a certain extent, has the responsibility to report any form of neglect, and letting that be physical, emotional, educational, or medical, to a member of authority, meaning social services. You are legally required to make sure that that happens. And if you don't, you could be in a lot of trouble if you're found out to be the reason a child died or was neglected. The Act imposes that social services, the police, health services, and even the fire brigade have to deal with any form of child protection issue that may arise. And they need to follow certain protocols to make sure that that child is safe in the future. That could mean referring them to mental health services, having the child removed from their current family, putting them under police protection, giving them further education, or other forms of support. But in no situation whatsoever should the child be left to be neglected. That is breaking the law. Safeguarding the welfare physically and mentally of every child is all of our responsibilities, and we all have to take ownership for it. Now, the problem is with this is a lot of people don't even know this law exists. A lot of people don't really understand how to do this, or are just lazy and can't be bothered, or they just generally are scared to do it. You know, reporting something like this is quite a big thing to do and can get you very emotionally involved with the person you're reporting. But in the real world, you could literally be saving a child's life. So how do we go ahead in reporting these such and such processes? Now, with most organisations, well actually all organisations that involve children specifically, but most types of people, are required to have some form of safeguarding or health or medical officer on site who is trained to be able to deal with these current situations. In schools, in every school all over the globe, they are required to have safeguarding officers. These people are trained to make sure that an establishment is safe and that any child who comes in is being protected and not neglected. They are responsible for making sure that physically you're not going to get harmed, mentally you're not going to get harmed, and if any of these threats are posed, they are dealt with appropriately. And they will also have a direct line to social services. In work establishments that work with children, it will be the same form of protocol. So, if you're ever in an educational, a health, or any form of organisation that works with children, and you spot an issue such as they're self-harming, they look underfed, they're the main two that do pop up, you need to report it. Now, there's two ways this could be done. You can go up to a member of staff, talk to them in a private setting and tell them what you've just seen, try and describe the kid or say their name, or you can request for a form to be given you. The company or organisation should legally have a form for it, and do it that way. But under no circumstances whatsoever should you just ignore what you've just seen. And a lot of people are like, well, it's none of my business, I don't even know the fucking child. Again, under law, you are required to report these things. It's part of protecting our children. You wouldn't like it if your child was doing such a similar thing of self-harming and no one decided to report it. So think the same for anyone else out there. I've been in these situations many times. Someone of either my age or someone else has disclosed something of similar categories to me, and I've had to report it. And as much as I never wanted to, I don't want to be a snitch, legally, I'm required to. And if someone found out that someone told me something like that and I didn't report it, I could be in a lot of trouble. The same goes for medical emergencies. If you see someone hurt, injured, or in some other regard in the street, again, you are required to report it or get medical attention to them quick AC. If you leave them, technically, you are breaking the law. I mean, you're not going to get punished because the police are not that brutal, but technically you are. If you've not got the confidence to approach an organisation about this issue, there are things you can do. You can call social services directly. The number will be displayed on your screens. The person who will answer will be a qualified professional and can refer you down the right routes, get you to come in and write a statement, or tell you how you can report it online. And again, you'll be dealt with effectively. This is another way of reporting an incident that maybe didn't happen in a specific organisation, that was maybe in public. Or for people who just don't have the guts to approach that specific organisation personally. So let's go over quickly, now you understand the basics of how to report these things, what to look out for. Now what I'm going to do with this is, I'm not going to go over every single sign that a child is being neglected in this video, because I'll be here all day, but on my website, which is linked below, there is an entire page on child protection where you can read every sign that I've outlined about how to make sure that if these signs are spotted, you reported it. So this includes self-harm, how to look out for emotional effects, how to look out for physical effects, and how to know that if you see these things, there is a chance that a child is being neglected. I also state how vital it is for you to report each one of these signs. So, go and check out the link in the description to check out how this is going to work and how to know if you need to report something. And also, along with that, the social services number will also be on that page. The effects of not reporting these things and the effects of a child being neglected are severe. Again, as I've mentioned before, it leads to a half more chance of the child developing a mental health disorder, but it also causes a lack in brain development, damage to their brain. It can lead to them running away from home, or again self-harming or causing harm to themselves in some way. It can increase their chances of getting into dangerous or possibly harmful relationships. It decreases their social skills and their ability to maintain and build professional careers. Decreases their ability to maintain friendships and maintain general professional relationships with people. And along with this, decreases their opportunities in life due to them needing and requiring so much support to get back to where they should be. So I think overall, the main message of this video is, if you see anything within children, and within anyone really, but mainly children, that you just look at and you think, nah, it's a bit dodgy, or that doesn't sound quite right, or that, like, I wouldn't do that to my child, it's time to pick up that phone or pull that person in a room, have a chat and get it reported. Again, you are legally obliged to do so.